What is up, guys? In this video I'm going to be talking about the new Roly Poly bug that was added in the newest update. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you think of the Roly Poly, and if you guys would like to use my creator code in the shop, it is EvolveJake, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So the Roly Poly is basically the newest vehicle that was added in Fortnite in the most recent update. And in a moment, I will cut to some gameplay in a custom match and explain how you want to use this and basically show how it works. Because I think a lot of people are kind of confused. I myself was initially as well. It's not like the most intuitive thing ever. And then after that, I'm going to just go over some basic things you're going to want to know with it and explain why you're going to want to learn how to use this. A lot of players kind of view it as something that's just worse than cars. I agree with that. I think cars provide a lot of value, but Fortnite did change something, and your probably best, course of action will be to learn how to use this, because I think there will be a lot of matches where you're kind of forced to. So let's get right into the gameplay, basically showing off how this thing works. All right, so here we are in game, and you can just hop in the Roly Polies, and as the name implies, you can roll around. And I think a lot of players initially use this, and they kind of are like, this thing is terrible. I'm just kind of rolling around pretty slowly. But it's best to kind of like bounce around with it. You don't want to actually just roll from point A to point B. You want to do this boosted jump and then bounce. And there's actually several buttons that allow you to do this, at least for me. Either R2 or L2. Holding it kind of charges the bug up. And then also A, which is my jump button, works. So my aim down sight button, my jump button, and my shoot button all do basically the same thing with this vehicle. And what you want to do is charge it up to the point where you're glowing purple. You'll get a jump, and then while you're high up in the air, you want to hit the button again to bring yourself down to the ground and basically bounce around. And you kind of carry this momentum, your charge jump momentum, for a while. And you travel much faster doing this than like just a traditional rolling. And like that is the first thing that I think, as I said in the intro, it's not the most intuitive thing of all time. Like I initially did not know this until somebody in my Twitch chat kind of explained it to me. And at that point, it definitely feels a lot better. One thing that you can do is actually hit launch pads and geysers with it, and you'll go a bit higher. I don't think this is like that spectacular, but it's just one of those things that like the Fortnite community loves, when you could just, be very high up, and the launch pads allow you to do that. And you do carry this momentum obviously quite a bit as well. And so you get these like jumps. Since I'm like going higher up after like bouncing, we get sent further. I feel like it's kind of hard to describe. I don't know if you guys can really see in game, but like when you're playing, I feel like you can really feel like the difference in that momentum. Like you see how like much distance I'm actually getting with my jumps since we have that speed. So like the launch pads and the geysers really help with that, and that's also why your like boosted jump really helps with that, because your boosted jump like generates that momentum initially. And this is just basically how you want to travel with it. More of like bouncing around rather than rolling. One thing that I'm sure a lot of people are worried about is going to be fall damage, because if you get shot while in this, your character gets kicked out, and you actually don't take fall damage when you're kicked out of it. Fortnite is a weird game, and so there may be like some weird instances where you end up taking fall anyways. But for the most part, you're not supposed to take fall damage when you get out of this. Like, I jumped out very high up, and we're good to go. You get like a zero gravity effect. Like my character has like a blue aura around them. You see? Purple aura around them after I jump out of it. So that like kind of makes you immune to fall damage. So as I said, I feel like the basics of this, it's actually like very basic to use. You just jump around, hit your jump button again when you're high up to bring yourself down, and then just rinse and repeat that like dribbling a basketball basically. It's very, I think, easy and basic to use. It's just not the most like intuitive or obvious thing initially, especially because it's called a Roly Poly. I think a lot of people think you're just supposed to be like rolling around on the ground constantly, and if you do that, you travel very slowly. Look at that difference in terms of how fast I'm traveling when rolling versus jumping. So that's the basics of how the Roly Poly works. Now I want to talk about one of the biggest downsides of the Roly Poly, and that is going to be that whenever your Roly Poly is shot when you're inside of it, you're kicked out of it, and the bug basically becomes scared, and you need to go up to it and interact with it to, make it usable again. Or I think it will actually just kind of deal with this itself over time. But this makes it a very vulnerable vehicle. With cars, you know, you just get in it and then you basically can't be shot depending on the angle your opponent has. With this Roly Poly, you are very vulnerable and you're very susceptible to enemies just deciding that you can't use your vehicle at all. And I think that's like the main reason why a lot of players are going to prefer cars over the Roly Poly is, I mean, we see how Fortnite players use vehicles and use cars. A lot of times, the moment a fight starts, they're just getting in it and they're driving away, right? With the Roly Poly, that doesn't really work because your enemy shoots it. But this is something that you can also take advantage of if enemies are using the Roly Poly, obviously. So whenever you see an enemy using it, you could shoot their thing out and then they're forced out of the vehicle and potentially in a terrible situation. This is something that you need to really keep in mind when you're using it, is how smart you are or how kind of cautious you are with your pathing. You want to make sure that you always have some semblance of cover near you or like potential cover near you when you're driving around with it, because if you get shot and you're in no man's land, that's probably just going to be the end of your game. Even if you do like switch to your shockwaves or something to try to shock out of there, the amount of damage the enemy can get on you to start that fight by just kind of knocking you out of the Roly Poly is pretty detrimental. So you need to be very careful when using this, and if you are using it to push enemies, it's something that you probably need to push them in such a way where they don't really have line of sight on you. If someone's just camping on a mountain, you can't just drive right up to them with the Roly Poly in the same way that you could a car. And I think for that main reason, a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, why would I ever want to use it? I'll just use cars. Like it's just as fast potentially to travel around the map, maybe a little bit slower, but like it's not drastically, you know, slow. The fact that you can't be shot out of it as easily, the enemies have to like fully destroy your car to stop you from using it, not just hit like 1 or 2 shots. And then also the car itself can be mobile cover in a way that the Roly Poly kind of can't. It somewhat can, but it's not as much cover as a car. So I think a lot of people would look at it and be like, okay, cars are just definitively better. Let's ignore this Roly Poly. But in yesterday's update, Fortnite actually reduced the car spawns on the map. So the amount of cars on the island was reduced. With the Whiplash, the total was reduced from 41 per match to 25. And for the SUVs, it was reduced from 36 to 22. So this is 39% reduction, I believe, for both of them, according to Fortnite Assist. But either way, there's significantly less cars on the map now than there was previously. And this is going to make some situations where you're probably going to need to use the Roly Poly over a car because it's better than walking for sure. And that's why I was saying at the start of the video that you're probably going to want to learn how to use this. I don't think it's very difficult to use. It's just like, you know, it's one of those things that are like, once you get it, you got it. And I think it is pretty easy to pick up and learn, especially if you watch like the gameplay portion of this video. So even if you do think cars are definitively better, like I myself, I think cars are a better vehicle or more like overpowered vehicle. I still think it's very worthwhile learning how to use it because there's probably going to be some matches where you don't have access to a car, but you do have access to a Roly Poly, and that's going to be better than just walking wherever you need to go. So it's hard to talk about some things in this game because like overall effectiveness wise, I do think cars are better than the Roly Poly. As I said, like it's better for escaping, it's better for traveling, it's actual cover. But I do think the Roly Poly is better for like the health of the game because it's like a more balanced vehicle. So that's like kind of the way I look at it. There's like good for, you know, most effective thing in like winning the game. And there's also good in terms of like health for the game. And I think the Roly Poly being counterable or, you know, you having a say in whether or not your enemy is using the Roly Poly is better for the health of the game, even though it makes it like a less effective vehicle. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, yeah, I'm happy this is in the game. If they bolted cars completely, obviously they're not going to do that because of like the car skins in the shop and stuff. But if they did, I'd be pretty happy because I think the Roly Poly is one of the most balanced vehicles that we've ever had in Fortnite. And it still is quite good at traveling around the map. It's just not good at deciding that fights aren't taking place, which is something that, you know, the vehicles kind of create that problem a lot in this game. Another like small advantage that the Roly Poly has is it does kind of make less audio than a car. But I don't really think that's that big of a deal because most decent players in the game at this point in time have the visualized sound effects setting on, and the Roly Poly shows on that just as well. I don't know if the range is different between cars and the Roly Poly, but it's not like something that is basically, you know, invisible because we can't hear it. The visual audio is just really good, and it'll pick up on the Roly Polys as well. But that is going to be it for this video. Just kind of wanted to quickly show you guys how to use it, explain some of the differences between it and cars, as well as that car spawn rate reduction change so you guys were aware of it. Let me know what you guys think of the Roly Poly, and if you did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.